somebody had died. It wrecked the operating room that they were in. So it, I don't know what was
Yeah,
in it,
because
but she
well,
said
we
it
were
scared
talking
them.
about that on our show yesterday about some people get possessed and they have to have an exorcism. So maybe that she encountered was an accounting of somebody who had been possessed, and I guess the possessor, the demon or whatever, got pissed off because his host died, so now he didn't have a place to be. That's fascinating.
And she said they were right there at work in the ER and seen it. Both of them saw the same thing,
Mhm.
and and she said it was terrifying. She said, man, it just scared the crap out of them. They'd never seen, either one of them had never seen anything like that before. And this thing just stared
Yeah,
at
I
them.
wonder how many
Crap.
people. I wonder how many people have seen things like that and are afraid to report them because they don't want to. Like your sister can't do that because that's her job, right? And she could lose her job. So,
Yeah, she can't say anything about who she's seen or what she's seen or anything like that. So, but I can talk about it. I can talk about it. But she can't.
Right. But she can't. Well, that's why you're going to do a service for everybody who's got stories like that. Now, it'd be great for you to collect them and maybe make a book out of this. I'm sure in the next year or two you'll have enough stories to make a book. So I highly recommend you do that. Sounds great.
But so many stories out there. So many people have them, and a lot of people don't. Well, they'll talk about them, but I understand. People don't believe them, so they don't say a whole lot about it. And
Mhm.
but, a lot of times when your loved ones die, you do see something. Because me and my wife, I lost actually she was my third wife, and we had communicated like hey, if I die before you, I'm gonna come back and let you know. I'm going to do something so that you'll know that I'm on the other side and you do the same. And we had this agreement, right? But it's kind of
Mhm.
scary after it really happens. And my wife died in my bedroom floor. Her jugular veins burst in her esophagus during a seizure, and she bled to death right there in my bedroom floor. 36 years old. So
Oh.
I
Oh
had to
my
live through
God.
that. I had to live through this. And I had I had to clean up the blood on the floor and everything else. So and and I was wondering, because we had this agreement, and I went a month without seeing or hearing anything, and then one night she was real bad about when she wanted to talk to me. She would pinch me on the inside of the thigh, and it would hurt like all get out, and it would just wake me up to have a conversation. It was the oddest way of waking somebody up for a conversation. I hated it. And
I
all of
think
a
I'd
sudden,
be pissed.
all of a sudden I was laying in bed, and I really had to come to terms with being able to sleep in the same room that she had died in, and I made myself do it because I'm one of those kind of guys that's, if you're fearful of something, conquer your fear, face your fear. So whether I liked it or
Right.
not, I made myself do it, And so I slept in this bedroom, and it was nothing, for 30 days. Then all of a sudden I felt this pinch on my inner thigh, and I thought, my goodness, it felt just, I almost woke up expecting her to be in the bed, but nothing. But the next day, broad daylight, I was off. I was laying on the sofa watching TV with my cat, and it's in broad daylight, and in the middle of the floor, this rainbow started. It was like this rainbow started spinning and changing colors right in the center of my living room floor, and I'm watching it, and the cat, I could see him watching it too. And I was going, my God, what is that? And I looked, I couldn't find anything from the window or anything where a light like that would be coming. And it kept getting wilder and wider and wider, and then it just stopped. And I thought, that has to. It was the day after the night that she pinched me on the thigh. So I'm like, okay, that has got to be my wife trying to tell me that she's back. Has to be.
Mhm.
And the next morning I got up to go to work, and I had every light on the house off, and I closed the door, and I had my lunch pail and my coffee thermos, and I turned around and pulled the door shut, and underneath my door, as I pulled the door shut, I seen a light shine underneath the door, it was like a door inside the house opening and closing, and a light coming from it. You know, there wasn't no furnace or anything like that could all come on. There was no excuse for what this light. It was very weird looking light. Shined underneath the doorway for a second and then closed again, and it went completely back to dark. And I was like, yeah, there's something going on. You know, that's like a doorway, like Barbara was waiting on me to leave and then decided to come home and check the place out or something, I guess, after I left. Very strange. But, you know, it's stuff like that makes you wonder, you know. There's got to be more to it than just like a candle blowing out. You know, there's more to your afterlife than you could ever imagine. You know, so
right.
That's some of the first you think, you know.
Well, I'll share one. That was fascinating, actually. You know, so she may still come. She probably took a while to figure out how to do that. I think when you're dead, you don't always know how to do everything. So they learn how to communicate with the living. But I had one when I was growing up. My house was haunted, and my parents liked to go to church every Sunday, and I was required to go to Sunday school, but then I didn't have to go to the formal church part. And I only lived 2.5 blocks away from the church, so I just walked home. And I liked to watch the Sunday morning comics. This was in Pittsburgh, and they had a bunch of really good comics. One of them was H.R. Puss and stuff. So I would be sitting in the big overstuffed chair looking at the television, and behind me was a doorway going into the dining room, and around the corner was the staircase going upstairs. And I would feel something like watching me. And I turned around, and there's a head. This is in broad daylight, and this disembodied head was floating there. And it was an old man with a mustache and a beard, and he was had this silly grin on his face, kind of mischievous. And at first, I'd see that and scream, and I'd duck down. But you know, I was conflicted. I didn't want to have to go to church and stay there because I really got bored in the service, right? And so I had to face my fears. Like I said, you have to face your fears. So and it was my house. There was nowhere to go. Either I come home or I ended out in the street. So I came home, and eventually I got to the point where I got angry. My anger, I channeled my anger, and I would see that thing, and he would duck behind the thing, and he would duck behind the doorway, and so I eventually got brave enough, and I would say, "You son of a bitch," and I ran and followed it, and it went all the way upstairs. And I didn't follow it upstairs, but it went all the way upstairs. And it ducked to the left. Now, to the left at the top of the stairs was a second stairwell that went from the back bedroom in the top at the end of the stairs that you could see into the back bedroom up there, down to the kitchen. So this was an old farmhouse from the 1840s, and it had two stairwells that kind of connected, wrapped around each other internally in the middle of the house. So I saw him for years and years and years and years. Eventually, when I was in my late 30s, just like we're doing now, I started sharing some ghost stories with my brother and sister. And so, lo and behold, they had seen him as well. So you may think you're the only one, and I'm crazy or something. But then you find out, oh, my God, you saw him too. So I'm going to pass the talking stick back to one of you two.
Awesome. That's great. You know, there's this house I live here in Rangeville, Texas is like, it's kind of weird because it's like one of the older houses in town, and then they've added onto it, and then they got added onto a third time. Then I've actually added a bedroom onto it, so it's been added onto like 4 times. So the original house is actually very small, and back in those days it was. I mean, it wasn't like, it was a bedroom, a small living room, a kitchen, and that was it. And I mean, and anyway, we know for a fact there was an old woman, and they told us that there was an old woman that had died. She was sick, and there wasn't anything they could do for her. They put a hospital bed in the living room over here, and she laid in the bed and died, looking out of the window at the street. They said she was the nicest old woman you'd ever meet. And so we're always joking, you know. Well, we had this psychic lady come over, and she said, "Man, you know, I'm picking up on this there's an old woman here, and she lived here a long time." And we were like amazed, you know, like, yeah, we know exactly who you're talking about. and then we told her, she goes, right in my area where I'm at, you know, something strange, you know, something happened with her. And I'm going, yeah. I said, okay, right there where you're sitting is where she supposedly died, looking out of that window. And she goes, she said, I can feel her, you know. And she said she likes you guys. I said, I get the sense that she likes you guys. And she said, except your daughter. And we have, I don't know, she is probably a 15-year-old daughter that lives here. And she goes, she doesn't care much for her. And my daughter's kind of cocky, and she was sitting there, and she goes, well, I don't care much for her, you know. And she said, well, screw that old bitch. And when she said that, there was 6 of us sitting here watching her. She was sitting there on a coffee table with her legs crossed. And I kid you not, she got shoved so hard across the living room floor with all 6 of us watching. Oh, my God. She hit the floor and slid. She hit the floor and probably slid 5 or 6 feet. It was like she got, you know, you could tell that she got, it was like it's like a poltergeist. Yeah, that's like a poltergeist. It's like when you see that kind of physical activity, you know, she got shoved across the living room floor, you know, and slid across the floor. You know, and there was 6 of us sitting there watching it, and we were going, there's no possible way that she could have just fell. And you could tell by the way she was sitting there, she didn't fall. It was like she was purposely shoved violently.
Right. Oh, well, she didn't get hurt, did she?
No, she wasn't hurt, but we were like, well, you better watch what you say, you know. Yeah, you better watch it.
You might piss off a ghost.
Yeah. And
well, I have a follow-up story for my disembodied head, which is kind of, it's interesting when you get proof or correlation. So that was, I was a young, you know, adolescent when all those things were happening. I was still watching cartoons. So fast forward to my teenage years, when I was about 13, I'd say, and I had my friends one day. We were hanging out. My parents always disappeared. I don't know. They kind of trusted me. I was the youngest of 3, but I was very mature, so I could be alone in the house, and I didn't have to, you know, have a babysitter or somebody watching me. And this was the 60s. There was 3 things. So they'd left, and I had a bunch of my friends come over, and I always wanted proof, so I said, let's have a seance. Now, Larry was the 7th son of the 7th son type of thing. He said, I've been told I have these abilities, so let's do this. So we darkened the room, put a little candle in the middle. There was a bunch of teenagers who were sitting in a circle. And he has a system where he puts a pencil or writing utensil in his left hand with a piece of paper. And then he closes his eyes, and then the ghost or entity will write through his left hand, his non-dominant hand. So we're doing this technique, and he's saying things. So I guess the entity is speaking to him, and he's translating to us. And then he's writing, and then it's like, okay, let's turn the lights up, so we can see that his hand is moving, but there's not enough light to see what's going on the paper, right? So we happened to be real excited, and we put the lights on, and lo and behold, and I hadn't told anybody about the disembodied head, right? There's the guy, and he's got the beard and the mustache, and he said, oh yeah, I remember this guy. He said, there's someone here. It's a male. What do you want? Well, I'm the builder of this house. house was built in 1840. In Pennsylvania, it was the